Welcome back to Spiritual Workings. I'm your host, Aris. The last episode, I mentioned that we could cover any topic that you guys were interested in, and my girlfriend was the first one to make the request. But by popular demand, today we are going to be talking about pendulums. Now, before we get started, listener Keith was wondering from last episode, if you mess up in this life, would your spirit guides potentially decide to leave and stop working with you? This is and isn't the case. Your spirit guides have a contract to work with you pretty much no matter what. Even if you are screwing up, they're not really going to just stop working with you. But on the other hand, if you are getting really far off of your path, then you potentially don't need all of your spirit guides, right? So you might have a large team of spirit guides, maybe 5 or even more. And let's say you're really working within what your soul came here to do. Then you will continue to need those spirit guides to help guide you and bring you the energies that you need to be successful. But if you're off of that path, you could potentially get to a point where your spirit guides aren't really needed anymore. Certain guides might not work with you anymore, not because, they say, screw this, I'm out, but more so your guides are really only hired on to help with specific things. And if you're not needing those specific goals reached, then there's not really a reason for them to keep working with you at that period of time. So hopefully that answers the question. Let's go ahead and get into pendulums. Pendulums can come in a variety of shapes and sizes. As you might notice, your typical pendulum is obviously going to be a string, a wire, some sort of chain, right? And then you're going to have typically like a crystal or a piece of metal or some sort of object on the end. It is very common to see little decorative pieces at the end and maybe little stones throughout. So at the end of the day, it's really whatever draws your attention. If you feel really drawn towards, say, rose quartz, then get rose quartz. If you're drawn towards something like amethyst, then go ahead and get amethyst. If you don't really want to work with a crystal, then you don't have to, right? You could work with just some sort of piece of metal or even something as simple as like a key. I've actually made pendulums on the go before. Maybe I'm at work or something like that, and all I have is a string, and I just go outside and I find a rock, and literally you just like tie it around the rock or tape it to it. It really doesn't matter. At the end of the day, as long as you have something to work with, a lot of people will even use something like a necklace. Once I actually start showing you how to operate it, you'll kind of get the idea. Basically, as you're seeing, it moves around just fine. A necklace, in this case, a string, and a weighted object at the bottom. Now, this kind of gets into some of the questions that I was also getting from last episode. How can you communicate with your guides? I had mentioned something like tarot. You could potentially try to meet with them through meditation, which is something I could still make a video on if you guys are interested in spirit guide meditation. But the other option is something like a pendulum. And now the nice thing about a pendulum is you're actually also tapping into your subconscious mind, and you can work with your higher consciousness. Now, you would want to be able to work with your spirit guides or your higher consciousness if maybe you're having like a question. Maybe there's something going on in life that you're unsure about, or you just want some sort of clarity or reassurance. A lot of people will use a pendulum dowsing board. So as you can see, we have yes, we have no. This is a more complex chart. A lot of pendulum boards will actually just be as simple as that. Yes, no. You might even get something like check again, possibly like we see on here. And this one obviously spreads out. It has the days of the week, the different zodiac signs, alchemical symbols, and it expands from there. We have runes and so on and so forth. All charts could be different. And at the end of the day, it's really whatever you want to use. I mean, simply you'll just hold your object over it. And right now, right, we're getting yes. And if it's going over this way, then it would mean no. And if you wanted it to specifically show you something like maybe what day do I work next, right? So then we have like it's going over Sunday, right? Now that's kind of the point I was going to get to with pendulums, is that you can ask questions on it, but it's sort of hard to maybe get direct answers. So typically when you're using it, a lot of times it's going to be something like a yes or no question, right? Now, everyone's pendulum is going to work differently. So it is definitely a matter of how you want to use it. I personally know when I pick up a pendulum, I ask it the first thing that I do is show me yes, right? So for me, yes is back and forth. For you, yes could be a circle. It could be left to right. It could be something else. The next question, right after show me yes, show me no. For me, it's a circle. For some people, maybe show me yes is like going clockwise. And for other people, no is counterclockwise or vice versa. It doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, it could be a matter of what the pendulum wants to use to show you yes or no. It could be a matter of what you find you prefer. I know I typically prefer back and forth for yes and a circle for no. When I'm working with a new pendulum, you can actually reprogram them. You can have them show you yes or no based on the way that you prefer. The big important thing, though, would be checking to see if you're vibrationally aligned to a pendulum. Now, these two pendulums right here are my own. I've worked with them before. I very much so know that I'm aligned to them. But these two pendulums I've never worked with before. So you could ask, show me yes, show me no. Are we vibrationally aligned to each other? And it says no. And that's not to say that you can work with the pendulum, but it's probably not going to give you the most accurate answers. And honestly, more importantly, you're probably going to lose it. A lot of people will buy or make a pendulum and then they don't have it for very long, a couple days, a couple weeks, and then it gets lost and they never find it again, right? And part of that just simply has to do with not being vibrationally aligned to it. So, for me, yes. And we know. And then, are we vibrationally aligned? This one said yes. From that point, you can start working with it for different uses. Now, this is sort of my main pendulum. As you notice, I have a little owl on the back of it just for decorative purposes. I like the owl. It's sort of the symbol for Athena, and I like working with Athena from time to time. This one would be sort of my pendulum that I would use just for more everyday use or personal use, something like that. I have a pendulum that I like using for readings. You can always use an everyday pendulum for readings, such as for yourself, a friend, family member, or a client. Now, this one I specifically use for when I do energy work. I personally combined Reiki with shamanism and psychic surgery. And what's really nice about it, you can actually use this to move around energy. I specifically picked out amethyst because amethyst is a stone which is great for energy work. It can take away negative energy and it can kind of move it around. It could also be something which is good for protection and it could be a source of giving energy, like healing energy. So for me, I might be using it on a client when I'm doing work, right? And maybe I'm just literally going back and forth like over their head, and then maybe I move down and now I'm going, over their body, and then maybe over their arms, their legs, and so forth. The other thing that you can use it for, and this isn't specific to energy work, but just in general, is for maybe trying to pinpoint something, trying to locate something. That actually kind of goes into the realm of dowsing. Now, obviously, dowsing isn't specific to pendulums, but pendulums are a very common tool used within dowsing. Now, when you're dowsing, it could be for something like I'm trying to find gold, I'm looking for oil, I'm looking for water, something like that, right? That's kind of historically what a lot of people were using dowsing for, was to try to find natural resources. Today, it could be as simple as where are my keys? And you could have it literally show me like where are my keys? And then you kind of would follow that maybe through the house or wherever you are to try to find your wallet, your phone, your keys, whatever it is that you may have lost. As far as doing energy work, obviously I can use that to sort of be like, show me where I need to do work, right? Where do I need to remove something? Where do I need to bring in energy? Whatever that might look like. If you ever need to clear out your pendulum, you could just kind of give it this fast spin. When I start working with a pendulum for the first time, I always like to just kind of give it a good spin and let it do its thing. Or even kind of go crazy like this. When I'm working with a client and I'm trying to clear energy, sometimes I'll get a really good spin going. And I know a lot of people are probably wondering, are you moving the pendulum? And technically, on some level, you could be, right? You could be back and forth. But ideally, you want to rest it. The way that I hold it is I have the string kind of going over the top finger, and then I'm holding it with my thumb, and I'm more or less just letting it rest, right? And you notice it's kind of moving, and there's not a whole lot of movement I'm doing. Um, And realistically, this movement should be coming from, like your higher consciousness, your subconscious mind. And notice right here, right? I can kind of get it to move and not actually really have to move my hand or my arm very much. You should be able to just kind of get this natural motion going. What's great about working with a pendulum is it actually clears your energy field, your chakras and so forth. So the more you use a pendulum, the more your energy field is actually going to be clear, and that path for the energy to move through your body is going to allow it to move through your body and into your pendulum. The other thing about working with a pendulum is I highly recommend like any divinatory tool like tarot and so forth, keeping it with you for a little while, making sure you cleanse it in something like smudge or salt. Pendulums, because they often have crystals on them, might absorb energy, especially if it's something like amethyst or a black stone. So it can be good to clear that energy. And as far as recharging them or charging them, but in the first place, you can always try something like putting them out in the moon. I like charging a lot of my stuff in the moonlight. Sunlight works as well, but obviously most people typically aim for like a full moon to try to charge stuff. The other thing that you could consider is making moon water. If you guys are ever curious on making moon water, essentially you're just putting water out in the moonlight, sort of setting an intention with it. And then you can actually use that water for cleansing and for charging and so forth for any of your tools. That is all for today. If you guys have any more questions on pendulums or anything else related to psychic work, please let me know. And then, let me know what you guys are interested in for next episode. Do you guys want to talk about like crystals, or maybe we could go into tarot or palmistry, astrology? Really, we can kind of go anywhere from here. So whatever you guys want, let me know down below. And this is a new channel. So again, if this video was helpful, please make sure to like and subscribe for more. Thank you, and I'll see you next time.